Welcome to the Imagine More podcast with your hosts, Abel and Nate, the podcast that discusses everything real estate and everyday life. Be sure to follow us on TikTok at EpicInvesting2 and Instagram at Imagine_Able_Nate. Now let's get on with our show. Welcome to another episode of the Imagine More podcast. This is Abel and I'm here with my co-host Nate Pineda.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Welcome to the third episode. Today we're going to kind of just get into a little into our personal lives and how we make it work while doing real estate. So we'll just kind of talk about how we start our days, what we do throughout the days, setting up meetings, stuff like that. We'll talk about our families and stuff and extracurricular activities that we do outside of real estate. So yeah, Nate, if you want to go ahead and see how do you start your day?
So I start every day. I usually get up at 5:30.
Early bird.
Yeah, it's ever since the military, 5:30 comes around, I start getting up. Get ready, go to the gym. Spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours at the gym. Then I head home, make my coffee, shower, get breakfast, and get ready for the day. Usually I like to be at the office before 10. Sometimes I get here a little after, depending on what we got going on that day. You know. Sometimes you got clients who want to see a house or whatever, so you get here sometimes earlier if you have to. But one of the beautiful things about real estate and being your own boss is you set your schedule too.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what I like about it. Kind of the same thing. I'm not as an early bird as Nate is. I swear Nate wakes up like at 3:30 in the morning and starts getting ready to go to the gym. He's usually the one to text me and be like, hey, are you coming to the gym? And it's usually around, I probably get to the gym anywhere between 6:45 and 7:15. Usually wake up at 6. Head to the gym. I'm there for usually about an hour to 2 hours. Same thing. And then just get done with that. Go home, eat, and come to the office. Start taking care of emails. Start kind of scheduling my day for that day, whether I have showings, or client meetings here at the office. I kind of just set those up, and then just kind of go about my day that way. I usually try. One of my hobbies is I like to golf.
Yeah.
So I do golf a lot.
I think that's an understatement.
So I try to golf at least anywhere from maybe 3 to 4 times a week when the weather's permitted, right? As for my family, so I have a his, hers, ours sort of deal going on. I've been married to my wife since 2016 in July, and then I have a son, and then my stepdaughter, and then we have one of our own, 14, about to be 15, 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So life's a little crazy with our kids.
Yeah, life's extremely full when you have kids. I think looking back, one of your hobbies is golf, right? One of my recent hobbies is going to the gym. I like hunting. I like anything outdoors, stuff like that. But I think when I look at the general aspect of life, if you don't have those hobbies, life can consume you, and it can really just play a mental toll. Yeah. Yeah. For me, going to the gym, starting my day off with the gym it's more of a mindset. It puts me in a better mood. I feel like I can accomplish more when I go to the gym first thing and I work out, rather than just getting out of bed, doing that whole routine. I feel sluggish throughout the day when I don't go and have my time at the gym, or it could be a multitude of things, like even hunting. I need that time away, I feel like, just so I can keep my sanity with everything else that's going on. And because in real estate we spend so much time looking out for our clients, doing what's best for our clients.
Amen. Yeah.
With kids, we're looking out for our kids, whether it's running our kids here or there for sports or for church or for whatever activities they got going on. You're always it seems like always on the move. There's really no time to take a break. And if you got something like if you're going to school, like my wife, she's going to school right now.
Mm-hmm.
So she not only has her job, she's taking care of her dad, and she's going to school, and then she has the kids, and her time is so spread thin that a lot of the times it brings up things like anxiety, and it could do depression and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could see that. You know, same thing. My wife, she's going to school right now, and she's about to graduate this August. You know, God willing, and it takes a toll on her. I mean, she was working and doing school at the same time, and it started to weigh on her. And so she finally did say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna kick back on working and just finish my schooling, and I was okay with that. I was already full time in real estate, and it really does help with real estate because like Nate was saying, you know, you are your own boss. You do make your own schedule, and I feel like since I've started doing real estate, whereas before, you know, it's like, oh, my kid has, you know, he's getting an award today at school, right? And it's gonna be at 1:30 in the afternoon, and it's like, oh, I gotta go ask my supervisor for, you know, for that time off so I can, you know. And it just, with real estate, it's, you know, you do kind of make your own schedule, or like, hey, let's make everything work for the day, right? Yep. My kid has this, I have a showing at this time, you make it all work, you know, you lay it out so it's like, okay, I'm gonna be good today. And you're at the same time, you are like me, I'm helping out my wife, you know, because I'm able to pick up the kids if I need to, you know, or make their award ceremony or whatever they may be getting, if it's sports. You know, all three of my kids, they're all in extracurricular activities, and they do. My oldest does football, and my daughter, she's in cheer, and she does volleyball, and then my youngest, you know, he plays football as well, and then, you know, with school and stuff, and then he actually does golf too, so he does golf tournaments throughout the summer. So, you know, just
you definitely have to learn to prioritize when you're your own boss. Your scheduling, the way you schedule it. If you don't have a set schedule on when you're going to do things and how you're going to do things, man, it can get crazy.
It does.
I mean, you can feel like you're going 100 miles an hour and not get anywhere.
Yeah.
So prioritizing, setting the schedules. You know, we have a fridge at our house with one of these calendars on it, and everybody writes down what they got going for that day. And sometimes I think that's the only way we stay on track with stuff, because there's days where there's 15 things going on, and by the time you know it, it's 8 o'clock at night. Nobody knows what's for dinner, and everybody's exhausted.
That's good. Yeah.
know, so
yeah, that's actually that's a really good idea, is to have a calendar at home. And you know, my wife is definitely more of the schedule keeper at our house. She has, you know, a daily planner, and she writes all her stuff in, and, you know, she's really good about that. I'm kind of more of the, hey, let's just, you know, for that day, I gotta, what am I gonna do? You know, what's going on for today? You know, if I know the day before I got something for tomorrow, like, okay, at this time I'm doing this, at this time I'm doing this. Sometimes I mean, obviously I will get, you know, set appointments a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance. You know, if I know what's, you know, it's coming up or whatever, I try to, you know, schedule that accordingly. But, you know, I mean, we do a lot of stuff. I mean, me and Nate, we're both a part of our church. We do ministries at our church. Nate's a part of the youth ministry. I do worship ministry. So I've been playing music since I was 12, 13. I've been playing the bass. So, yeah, I mean, that's every Thursday and Sunday. You know, Sundays, which, you know, a lot of people who like to see houses, they do it on the weekends.
Yep.
You know, they do it on the weekends. So it does make it a little bit difficult, but, you know, it's something that I enjoy doing. I love, you know, doing ministry for the church and helping out with worship. It's really fulfilling. And, you know, but if somebody does want to see a house on a Sunday, you know, I usually schedule it for after church.
Yep.
You know.
So one of the things, like, if you're taking on new stuff, so like you talked about how we do ministry at the church, you know, of course we're dads, we're husbands. One of the new thing I took on is I'm on the board for Springfest now.
Oh yeah.
So I get those meetings, and then I run a small farm, so there's stuff always going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't prioritize the way you're going to do things, like I said, your days can just get away from you, and that causes some tension too, whether it's tension at work or tension at home with your spouse, or just it could be anywhere, just feeling the stresses for the day. And that's, again, why I say I like to start off with the gym first thing, because it puts me in that mindset. Like, I just got that hour workout done. Now I'm ready to take on whatever's next.
So you've always kind of been a gym goer.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken breaks. I mean, it does get to a point to where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you just stop for a while. But yeah, that's.
So I was a guy that I mean, the last time I probably went to a gym was when I was in high school, honestly. And so recently, I mean, it's been like a month now, close to a month, that I started going to the gym, and it really, I never realized what it can do for you. And now that I've been doing it for a month, I'm like, man, it really does help you out, because there'd be days where it's like, man, I do real estate. Well, I don't have anything going on in the morning. I don't have nobody that wants to see a house. So, I mean, it's really easy as a real estate agent to kind of get lazy. I mean, because you can. Yeah. You can get lazy. You can be like, well, I'm going to sleep until 9:30, 10 o'clock. And by the time you know, it's like you get up, you eat, and you get showered. And it's like you end up at the office, and it's already, 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon. It's like, okay. But then you end up being here till like sometimes 7 or 8, which is kind of like, but the nice thing about doing real estate is, I mean, a majority of people work, 9 to 5 jobs, they're 8 to 5s. And so, during the week, a lot of people like to see houses after 5 or 5:30 usually. Mm-hmm. So it does make it a little easier, on us to plan those showings accordingly, as far as, hey, I usually ask my clients right off the bat, if you want to see a house during the week, what time are you off of work? They tell me, okay, now I know, okay, this client after 4 o'clock, this client is after 5 o'clock. And that way you schedule those accordingly as well. But, real estate can get busy. I like I said, I think the busiest time for real estate agents is the weekends. Yeah. It really is. Saturdays, Fridays, doing open houses. A lot of those. I like to do open houses usually on Fridays or Saturdays, usually on the weekends where, most people are not working.
Yeah, and that's a hot time to do it too, is when people are at home, or, with the weather getting nicer, people are going to be outside walking and, doing their outdoor activities and stuff. So we're going to see more traffic in these open houses. So it does get busier. Wintertime, it's kind of slow because people aren't really out.
It's cold. It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
I am not a winter person. I'd rather be down in Texas, to be honest. But last year in December we went to Texas, or not last year, sorry, in 2021, and during December, and it was funny because we went and it was it hadn't snowed in Washington yet, so we left to Texas. We drove down there, and not very much snow on the way over there, and lo and behold, we come back and it is just snowing everywhere. I mean, as soon as we got into, like, I want to say Utah, kind of the Salt Lake area, all the way coming up to Moses Lake, it was just snow everywhere. And it was like, wait a minute, I left to Texas to get away from this, and I guess I wasn't over there long enough. But
probably not. Yeah, that'll happen.
I mean, during the winter, a lot of people don't, they want to stay in, but spring's coming.
Yep.
It's coming real quick. I mean, we've got pretty nice weather coming up in these next few weeks, so more people are going to want to start seeing houses, and and you're going to see more agents doing the open houses, because like we were talking on this last episode, is the market's starting to pick back up. It's not going to be where it was maybe a year ago, but it's slowly getting there. I mean, we're starting to see it in Spokane, where you're starting to see multiple offers on houses again, which usually the Moses Lake area kind of follows Spokane, usually about a month and a half, 2 months after. So get ready for that.
Yeah, Tri-Cities is booming right now, or starting to heat up. Moses Lake, you're seeing more buyers out, and I think people are finally past that fear of the interest rates, and they're out shopping again. And the warm weather, it always helps.
Yeah. And I think too is a lot of people are figuring out, okay, with the whole buy downs and stuff, right? Like this is what they get into a house, but they look at what the payment's going to be, because realistically that's what it is. Realistically, it's like, okay, I can afford how much house depending on what my payment is, right? So if you want your payment to be, $1,800 to $2,100, then you're going to be looking at a maybe $260,000 to maybe a $300,000 house. Yep. anything more. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are looking at it that way. And, you know, with the hopes that, hey, you know what, I can hack this out for a little while and then hopefully refinance when the rates drop, right? That's kind of it, and everybody's hopes, right? I think it's going to go that way.
I think you're exactly right. People generally look at the monthly payment before they look at the main, how much the payout is. And I know even for like shopping for a car, you're looking at that monthly payment first and not necessarily caring how much you're going to pay.
Yeah.
So if that monthly payment fits it, then.
And that's kind of what happened in 08, you know, with the whole crash of the market was, you know, the banks back then, all these lenders, these mortgage lenders were, I mean, they were pre-approving buyers for houses at way more than what they could afford. Mm-hmm. I mean, realistically, and I remember in 08, I had bought my first house over by the fairgrounds, and like I was making, gosh, I don't know, I was making maybe $12.50 an hour, and when I went and got my pre-approval, I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right.
Doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'm obviously not gonna go buy a house for, I think it was like $250,000 I got approved for at the time. I'm like, but there's no way, because if my payment would be this much with what I make, like no way. And I think that's why that crash happened.
I think that has a lot to do with it. And people were upside down in houses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people borrowed, their credit cards were maxed out, and they had so much debt that they ended up losing it. And right now, so people talk about a housing crisis or a crash or whatever. What people aren't realizing is a lot of people have a lot of equity in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
So say the market did start to crash, people can put their houses on the market and sell and still come out in the positive.
Yeah.
And back in 2008, people couldn't do that because they were upside down and everything.
Yeah.
So that's a really big factor in what's going on now versus what went on in 2008. Mm-hmm. Is, you know, the prices of houses are greater and there's more equity. So.
Yeah, I think you know, inflation's starting to come down. I just saw an article yesterday, I think it was. It looks like inflation was down. I think in the month of January there was like over 500,000 jobs created in the U.S. So you know, the economy's coming back up. Good job, Joe Biden, I guess. But I mean, you know, Joe Biden's going to take all the credit, of course.
I'll just won't comment on anything political right now. So.
Yeah. So, so going back to kind of, you know, personal stuff. Me and Nate, we also last year was our first year. We coached Grid Kids football.
Yeah. Talk about fun and exciting.
That was something different.
You know, it's for me, being involved in the community is a big deal.
Yeah.
But helping out the youth and the kids in the community, and you know, some of these guys don't get the structure, right? Some of these kids coming up into football don't have that structure, or maybe even a father figure to look up to, or anybody guiding them. You know, and when we were coaching football, that was our chance to pour into these young athletes. And you know, there's times where parents would come up to us and say, hey, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, my kid did a lot of growing during the season, or, you know, you taught our kids how to play this sport and do it with a good attitude. And, you know, for us, I mean, our team was great. I loved coaching them. Did we win every game? No.
No.
But our kids still walked off the field with their heads held high because they did a good job.
Yeah.
And like one of the things you said, is if we improve 1%, we're still improving.
Yep.
So instilling that in these kids at a young age, hopefully that carries on into adulthood, and we can help make these kids better citizens later on.
Exactly. And you know, it really made me feel good the other day. I actually saw one of the grandmothers of one of our players at the gym. And she comes up to me, and she was all, you know, hey, how you doing, coach? And you know, and she told me how her grandson was doing, and she asked me, she's like, are you going to coach next year? I was like, yeah, that's the plan. Me and Nate plan to coach next year. I was like, but, you know, mine and Nate's son, they're in the same grade. So next year they'll both be fifth graders.
Yep.
And so Nate and I will move up to the fifth and sixth grade division. And her grandson's, unfortunately, he's going to be a fourth grader. So when I let her know that, you know, she was kind of bummed. She's like, he really enjoyed you guys being his coaches, and that really, you know, that kind of hit like close. I was like, man, that made me feel really good. I was like, it's you don't when you're doing that, you don't really. I don't know. To me, it's like, am I really making a difference in these kids' lives? But you really are.
Yeah.
Even though all you're doing is teaching them football,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, you're teaching them responsibility, and you're teaching them, decision making. Really, hey, what are you gonna do right here? And
Yep.
even though it's just in football, but later on as they grow older, it's like they'll take that into adulthood, and use that, like you said, to become good citizens, hopefully later on in life.
Yeah.
There was some football players that we had that, we did kind of play that father figure for them, and that was really touching, and you can kind of tell who those kids are, but it really made a difference, honestly, in my life coaching those kids. Like I said, it was my first year, and was it your first year?
Yeah, I've coached other sports, like I did t-ball for Amaraya and softball with Amaraya, but this was my first year coaching football, and that's my greatest thing about coaching is being able to teach these kids how to handle many different scenarios, whether it's winning, whether it's losing, whether it's conflict while they're playing a sport, just teaching them how to deal with the many emotions that come with sports.
Amen. Yep.
And seeing them as they are progressing, because a lot of the kids I coached, like I know some kids still from my t-ball team, which was about 6-7 years ago.
Wow.
And I still see them out in town, and they
Mm-hmm.
still say hi.
Yep.
So the satisfaction of pouring into these kids and them remembering that is huge, and that's one of the reasons why I love coaching, is because at the end of the day you are making a difference, and it might not feel like it as you're doing it, or as we're in practice and nobody's listening and it gets crazy, and all the hectic part of practice and stuff like that, especially with young kids. But to realize that they do pay attention and they do know who
they remember,
and they remember, that's the part that's rewarding.
My oldest kid, Elijah, he's 14. He'll be 15 here in a couple weeks. His soccer coach, when he was around 5-6 years old, he still remembers him, and we still call him coach to this day, Joaquin Aronia. And every time I see Joaquin around town, I'm like, hey, what's up, coach? And he kind of looks at me, he's like, dude, that was a long time ago, you know what I mean? But it's like, he coached my kid, and we, as a dad, I appreciate that, he taught things to my kid in soccer when he was 5-6,
Mm-hmm.
that, he's probably, and has instilled into him until this day. So, it's a really great feeling to know that you're helping out in the community with these kids. Even like, I play for the worship team at the church, but also on Tuesday they have the youth worship, which Nate, or youth ministry, and what's it called? Restore City Youth.
Yep.
So they do that on Tuesdays, and so these past maybe 2-3 weeks they've been having the youth worship, and so I get to go in there and help with those kids, play music and help them kind of, I go up on stage and just kind of, music direct them and help them out with, hey, this is the key you should be in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, make sure you're not speeding up on that tempo. It's just simple stuff like that. It's little to me, but to them it's a lot. It means a lot to them. And so Nate's daughter, she sings, and incredible singer, Amaraya. Ever since the little girl was probably 6 years old, I just knew. I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna be able to sing when she gets older. And sure enough, and then my oldest boy, he plays the bass as well. So just helping them out. And obviously not only them two. There's what's a little piano player, Lisel, Urias. She's my son's age. She's 14, and she's just incredible at the piano.
Well, and like you said, it might seem small to you, but I've had these students come up and ask if you're going to be at youth that night to help them out, because your influence impacts them.
Yeah.
Just like our whole youth ministry with these kids, just being there impacts them greatly, and they look forward to it. It might not seem like it in the moment, because they're teenage kids, just like we were once.
Yeah.
We knew everything about everything, didn't care what anybody else said. But when you do take yourself out of that environment as an adult, those kids are looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it might seem like you're being taken for granted in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you're gone, those kids are like, hey, there's something not right. Where are they at?
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, the impact that you have on especially the youth today. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, you know, with all of the social media and, you know, obviously, yeah, this is a podcast and we're putting it on YouTube, but, you know, with social media nowadays, and, you know, they're just, you know, there's a lot of stuff that these kids can get easily sucked into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just music and words and videos that they watch. You know, I mean, there's times where I hear my youngest kind of say something like, where did you get that from? Oh, I saw it on YouTube. I'm like, I mean, it's not a bad word or anything, but it just kind of sounds like, all right, whatever, man. It's just like a little trend, right? And they keep saying it, like, and the way, just kind of how they talk. They talk like these YouTubers, and it's just like, bro, like, you don't need to talk like these YouTubers. You are your own person. You know what I mean? Like, you know, be proud of that, right? So, but yeah, no, it's a crazy world we live in. But like I said, anything that we can do to impact, you know, the youth and help the community, I enjoy it. I know Nate does too. It's honestly, it kind of makes our lives kind of worth it. You know, it's like,
yeah, definitely.
Like, we're doing something cool. You know, we're just doing something good. So, but
as long as you keep that balance, you know, that work, house, you know, play or whatever balance.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're gonna find successes in life. You know, if you can find that balance between your time, your family time, your
community time,
then you're golden. Right?
Yeah.
You're always gonna find success.
Yeah.
It's when you get concentrating so much on one and not putting any time on the other ones is when, so like, say coaching, right? You spend all your time coaching these kids, but you got kids at home that don't see you, then it's not going to really matter because your kids at home are suffering.
Yeah.
Or you spend all your time on yourself, but you don't spend any time with your family, then your family's going to be suffering.
Yeah.
And in turn, you'll suffer because you'll know it when you get home that you need to change something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I try not to golf on the. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I don't golf on the weekends, but if I golf, I try to golf when, you know, the kids are at school and my wife's at work or she's doing schoolwork or whatever. Because you're exactly right. Because if you don't balance it out, you know, you are gonna it's gonna take a toll on your family when you're gone. I mean, even like last night, for instance, you know, I didn't make youth because I had an appointment at 6:00. I mean, these people work till 5, so, you know, I set their appointment for 6, so I missed that. But even just getting home, you know, I got home like at 7:20, and my youngest was like, "Dad, I haven't seen you all day." Yeah. You know, I mean, he got home at 4:00 from school, and it's only been 3 hours, but I mean, his bedtime's 9:00, so it's like, oh, he only has, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours to spend time with his dad. So, yeah, it will take a toll. So like I said, you need to learn how to balance it. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to get it perfect every time. You're not going to get it perfect every time, but, you know, it's we at least try our best.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So,
very much so.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll check you out on our next episode.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the Imagine More podcast with Abel and Nate, the podcast that discusses everything real estate and everyday life. Remember to follow us on TikTok at Epic Investing 2 and Instagram at Imagine_Able_Nate. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. Until then, stay great.